The Spurs, a game they led by as many as 30 and finish off by 18, 108-90. Welcome in. It's Game Time Live, presented by Kia, here from our Atlanta studio. That's Ryan Hollins right there. Jason Terry, I'm Matt Weiner. We thought this might be the game that would be competitive and close after a couple of early blowouts, but that did not turn out to be the case.
No, not at all. But we knew this young, resilient Denver team would come out and play well at home. They've gotten their feet wet now in this series. And for me, the deciding factor tonight was their bench. You look at what Will Barton has done since he's been thrust to the bench, and he's given that lineup spark. He's given them energy.
Yep.
He scored 17 points tonight. Their bench outscored the Spurs. They had 39 points this evening, and that was the difference in the ball game. But San Antonio's going home, and we know they'll play better. So I think this will be a 7-game series. San Antonio will get the win at home, and they'll be back in Denver for a Game 7 where we know anything can happen.
If you had to ask for the perfect game out of the Nuggets, this was it. You know, their strength in numbers. 7 guys score in double figures. They moved the ball. Jokic, I'm sure he was somewhere around. Where was he? 8 assists.
8 assists.
All right. But the one thing is those guys made shots. And as a young team, and your coach Mike Malone, you keep plugging away. 10 points isn't enough. 15 points isn't enough. You want to take care of business at home. And those young fellas, they're starting to believe, saying, man, we're better than the Spurs. We take care of business. We run hard. And they also, as you brought out, Jet, on the defensive end, they were excellent. Just muddying things up, playing hard, playing the scouting report. Derek White beat us from the three-point line. Okay,
Right.
We're going to contest your mid-range, but beat us from the three.
Yeah, and he had 12 points on the night. He has been neutralized to a large degree the last couple of games. Murray, after a rough start to the season, seems to have found his way as well. 23 points on 16 shots. He also had 7 assists. Gary Harris's defense on White has been huge, and he was big offensively in the first half.
Yeah, and the one thing that he does well, he moves without the basketball. He scores in transition. He defends. He does all the little things, but he's not a point guard, and I wouldn't necessarily say Murray's really a point guard either. It's truly Jokic. So when those guys make shots, now Nikola Jokic is running that little, dribble handoff game where sometimes he keeps it, sometimes he hands it off, does the little butt screens, gets guys wide open, man, and that's a tough cover, Jet.
Yeah, tough cover. And for the Spurs, they need to get a steady dose of DeMar DeRozan and Aldridge. They were pretty much ineffective tonight. I think they kind of just went through the motions and pop a light into them a little bit, light a fire, and those guys will come out in Game 6.
You know what, I think what's tough for Pop is he hasn't really put the Spurs imprint on DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. Individually, they can go out and get their numbers. DeMar is giving you what he gave you at Toronto. LaMarcus essentially getting busy from the right block, pick and pop game. That's what he did at Portland. But haven't really bought into that Spurs system. I'm not sure if they haven't had enough time together, but in situations like this, defenses are able to key in on them. Yeah. And one thing San Antonio always got was easy buckets.
Yeah, well, Pop, they kind of made that decision the first season when Aldridge was there, and he said as much. We're going to change the offense to do what you do well. And I feel like the same has happened with DeRozan here for the most part, and this is why you see all the mid-range shots. Normally they don't take as many as 24 threes, which they did tonight, but they're also not hitting threes. 31% since Game 1, and they were only 7 of 15 in that game, but this was the best three-point shooting team in the league. Are they getting worse looks, or are they just not hitting shots?
Game plan discipline. Obviously, it's a different level in the playoffs. You know that Forbes is just a shooter. Bertrand's a guy you run off the line. White, a guy that you can kind of close out with the late contest on. Everything's intensified once you get there. But my issue when I look at this San Antonio squad, especially in a game like this, I don't see a two-man game between DeRozan and Aldridge. They seem to be like, okay, DeRozan, you get yours. Aldridge, you get yours. White had his big night. But I don't see that cohesive unit where when you always play San Antonio, Jet, and you can speak to this, it was a pick-your-poison situation. If you double-team Tim or Manu or whoever, the ball be popping around the horn and you gave up open shots.
We're a long way from that 14 finals team, which played, I've always said, the prettiest basketball I've ever seen in the finals. This team was 22nd in the league in terms of assist percentage, to your point. They don't move it around as much as they used to, and they don't necessarily get as many easy shots as they did.
No, they don't. And for me, we know Aldridge and DeRozan will be superstars right at the end of the day. But Bellinelli, Patty Mills, You know, those glue guys, their bench guys, Rudy Gay, are the ones that are going to have to provide that extra oomph that they're going to need to move on to the next round, let alone get another win in this series.
Right.
They have to have an impact in the game. And when you talk about three-point shooting, Bellinelli and Patty Mills historically have been great. They will be better at home tonight. Patty Mills 1 for 5, Bellinelli 1 for 3. So hopefully those guys can get, you know, some more looks when they go back to San Antonio.
In fact, no Spur hit more than 1 3. 7 threes by 7 different shooters, and some of that, frankly, was in garbage time. Lonnie Walker, Dante Cunningham wound up hitting one in his 5 minutes off the bench. Likewise, Bertans hit one in his 17 minutes tonight as well. Nuggets bench produced 39 points, including 17 from Will Barton, which is significant considering where his series began and where he is right now.
Yeah, well, the playoffs are all about adjustments, and the biggest adjustment made thus far in this series is the move Torrey Craig into the starting lineup for Denver and moving Barton to the bench.
All right, let's take it back to Denver and what figures to be, as usual, a short session with the media from Greg Popovich.
Your thoughts, Coach, on the last 5.5 quarters? The Nuggets have pretty much dominated your team in Game 6. What adjustments are you looking to make?
I'm not interested in adjustments right now. Game just ended. Maybe I'll look at the film first.
Coach, what have you seen?
That was my best Bobby Fischer. Tell Uncle Mikey that. What?
What have you seen from Derek over these last 2 games?
You know, he's basically a young kid who's feeling his way. Playoffs are different than a regular season. And he's growing every night as an education, whether he plays poorly or whether he's great. So he's a willing young man, going to have a great future, but he's got to have this kind of experience. So hopefully he'll bounce back on Thursday.
I know you said you have to look over the film, but
not much.
What wasn't working for you guys, all the way in the back? What wasn't working for you tonight?
Well, they just outplayed us in every facet of the game. You know, we missed a lot of chippies in the first half. It could have been a much more even game in the first half. We missed a lot at the rim. But I think overall, you know, their competitiveness. They got 5 threes in the first quarter. They just played well in every way. We've got to have more guys playing well for sure.
In that fourth quarter, you called a timeout after Beasley's 3. What were you trying to pin home to your team?
You know, it's the same message the whole game. We needed to stay the course, not try to do it individually, but do it as a group, try to crawl back into the game at both ends of the court as a group with what we do. We can't be something that we're not.
I know everyone has aches and pains this time of the year, but is there anything physically wrong with Rudy, and do you see him pressing a little bit?
No, he's fine.
What's the biggest challenge with Joker?
With who?
Nikola Jokic.
He's a great player. I mean, every great player is a challenge, and he can do a little bit of everything, and he does all of those things well. He's a total consummate team player who has great skills, but he's also competitive. Does a great job. He's got a very high basketball IQ.
Anyone else?
Make sure you tell Mike.
Greg Popovich communicating with Mike Malone through the media in the press conference after Game 5. Here's how it played out tonight in Denver. Paul Millsap to Gary Harris, and he got going early in this game offensively.
Great ball movement by the Nuggets tonight. Just an outstanding job of sharing the basketball. 26 assists on the night.
Harris had 8 points in the first quarter. LaMarcus Aldridge over the left shoulder, 17 and 10 on the night. Probably need more out of he and DeRozan offensively for a team that doesn't always score efficiently, I guess I should say. Murray with the driving layup, good patience there, and then Harris with the reverse. 13 of his 15 before halftime. Denver had an 11-point lead. Third quarter, Murray spinning and hitting.
When he gets hot, man, he scores with the best of them. I mean, literally the NBA's best when he's going.
Well, you can just see how much the confidence level has risen over the course of this series. And he finished with 23 and 7 assists. Malik Beasley to Jokic.
That's tough.
Talk about confidence, though. They have given this young man confidence, and it's going to be hard to cut his water off.
There's Jokic. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Feeling it.
Bang, bang.
And feeling it again. 2 of 4 from the great beyond for the big fella. 16 points, 11 boards, 8 assists. Probably would have gotten the triple-double if they needed him to play longer. But this got out of hand. Barton began the series as a starter, moved to the bench. Tonight, career playoff high 17 points and 5 rebounds. You just heard Greg Popovich say they outplayed us in every facet, and we've got to have more guys play well. Pretty simple, but pretty self-evident as well. As the San Antonio Spurs are now up against it, they'll face elimination on Thursday night on their home floor in Game 6. Well, let's go back to Jokic and what he was talking about with Nikola Jokic. Obviously, he is the linchpin of the Nuggets offensively. What can they throw at him at this point that they haven't already tried?
No, they've thrown everything at him. When he's in the low block, they are double teaming him. Out front, when he picks and pops, they close out to him. But as you've seen, you can close out, but you're just not close enough. At 7 feet, he's able to shoot with the best of them. He's just playing in a great rhythm, and he gets it in a variety of ways. I thought in Game 1 they did not utilize Nikola's total skill set, right? They really looked to post him up a lot on a smaller defender, but the double team affected him. It took away his aggressiveness.
It's also his first playoff experience.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so he wasn't totally comfortable, but the coaching staff did a great job, and they featured him and got him the ball in positions where he can have the most impact. And he's a great facilitator. We know that. But the way he's scoring the ball now efficiently with ease is what they're going to need him to continue to do.
And what's tough about that little elbow action is you got to ward through it. You know, there's no easy way to guard it.
To Mike Malone in Denver.
Mike, is there anything that you've told your team over the last 2 games since that Game 3 about how to disrupt or why it's important to disrupt Derek White?
You know, I think the way you disrupt Derek White or anybody for that matter is being physical, getting into him. And yes, you can point to the change in the lineup, putting Gary on him. I think Gary Harris is one of the more underrated defenders in the NBA. We've changed our coverage on him. We're more aggressive. Instead of just being down the floor and letting him turn the corner and live in our paint, we've been more aggressive in pick and rolls. And I think our guys realized after the first 3 games, Derek White was the early MVP of this series. And we've done a really good job in the last couple of games of trying to negate his impact. And, it's been a big part of our success in the last 2.
Mike, how much has this team grown up in the last 96 minutes, if that's possible?
I think we've grown up a lot since Game 1. I know it's we talk about it all the time about how young we are, but it's a fact. And, for example, I challenged Jamal Murray today. I said, your greatest challenge as a young player is being consistent. In our 2 wins, you've been great. In our 2 losses, you haven't. And that's part of being young. And I thought Jamal was terrific tonight in answering the bell after a very disappointing effort in Game 3. And then knowing they were going to come in here tonight and try to steal one and take that home court advantage back. And we didn't relent. We stayed with it. And I thought our third quarter was one of our better quarters of the year. That was phenomenal. I just loved how the ball moved, how we defended, how we rebounded. We finally won the first quarter, and we finally won the rebounding battle. So we've grown up a lot, and we still have a lot more. A closeout game is the hardest game for many of our young players they'll ever play in, and especially against a team like San Antonio.
Coach, outside of this market, it seems like there's still a lot of casual fans who maybe don't understand and appreciate Nikola Jokic, and I'm just wondering if you think they're missing anything.
I don't know how you miss him. You miss the big white guy in the room. He is a great player. I mean, you hear everybody talk about, all these other players, rightfully so. The league is filled with great players, but what Nikola Jokic is doing in his playoff debut has not happened very often in the history of this game. And he goes out there and once again tonight, 16, 11, and 8. I damn near ran him into the ground. But those threes at the end of the quarter were huge. He can impact the game in so many ways. So I hope in this playoff crowd, this national TV audience, that people are tuning in and watching us and saying, man, this kid Nikola Jokic is for real. We know it, and I think it's about time everybody else started to realize it.
I'm on a mission from Pop. He said that we had to tell you that was his best Bobby Fischer.
Here's something. This has nothing to do with tonight's game. Why is Greg Popovich not in the Hall of Fame? Right? That's something that has to be like, we talk about it all the time, and, the NBA doesn't have their own Hall of Fame. I know this is not about tonight's game, but how is that guy with 5 world championships not in the Hall of Fame? And you have some of these college coaches who put up big money to help them get in that are in the Hall of Fame. Nothing against the college coaches, but Greg Popovich not being in the Hall of Fame is a damn shame.
Seriously, follow up on Nikola. All his skills, his ability to pass and make his teammates better and all that stuff. We've all seen that. Talk a little bit about his competitive fire in this series, because he's really stepped up to the challenge, in my opinion. What's your opinion?
Oh, I agree. Sometimes you get lost in the numbers. Like a lot of the analytical people out there love Nikola because he's an analytical, dream, if you will. But what's really impressed me beyond the numbers and the stats has been, to your point, because that competitive fire, that toughness, they're not backing down. To me, he's showing true grit, resiliency, toughness. And for a young guy, first time in this stage, that's remarkable. I said earlier, nothing against Jamal. Jamal's biggest challenge is consistency. Nikola's biggest challenge is, being able to play the minutes I'm playing him, because he's playing at such a high level on both ends. But I love when Nikola plays with emotion. I love when Jamal plays with emotion. Those guys, that's when they're at their best. And I've seen example after example from both of those guys in this series.
Will Barton said Paul Millsap reminded him before Game 4 that he was still a bad MFer. And I'm curious what your thought of just how he has handled, goes out and gets 17 on 7-11 tonight, just how he has kind of handled, what's been thrown at him.
I think he's handled it with dignity. I think he's handled it with maturity. And I think Will was great tonight. I ran him, I think, the whole second quarter. That group was playing well. And how lucky am I to have guys like Mason Plumlee, Will Barton, Monte Morris, Malik Beasley be your bench unit. And, even late in that game when we were up big, Will was out there running his team, getting his team organized, not just coming down and looking for the first shot available. So, Will's a talented player. And obviously, me making that decision was not me not believing in Will anymore. It's just something I felt was best for our team. But in 2 games since that lineup change has been made, I think Will's done a hell of a job for us off that bench.
There was that sequence in the first half where Nikola and Jamal had those back-to-back give-and-goes. Just curious, how would you describe their chemistry and sort of how it's evolved specifically this postseason?
Yeah, I think their chemistry is almost romantic. It's they care about each other, they love each other, they play for each other, and that's when we're at our best. I mean, let's be honest. When we had so many examples tonight of just playing for each other, moving without the ball. In third quarter, we didn't even have to call any offensive sets. We were just playing the game. And obviously, San Antonio is a team that started that many years ago, the beautiful game. But it's really fun to watch as a coach, as a fan, playing the game the right way. And our guys thrive off that. When your best player is the most unselfish guy on the floor, good things are going to happen. And guys learning and adjusting to playing with a great player and a great passer makes it that much easier. They've all bought in. We're a selfless group.
Coach, do you feel like your guys played for each other tonight? And you've been using that line since training camp. I was just wondering, after this big win, if you could explain a little more what you mean by that beyond just shot selection and ball movement.
Well, and I think it carries over to the defensive end as well. Playing for each other is not just on offense. One of the 3 things we talk about with our culture is being a selfless group. And I think we have a lot of guys that have checked their egos at the door and understand it's all about the collective good of the team and us winning. And so what does that mean, playing for each other? That means If the play is not for me, I still have a job to do to run my route to set the play up. That means if Torrey Craig is guarding DeMar DeRozan, I'm not still hugged up on the weak side guarding my guy. We're defending as 5 guys as one, and on offense, we're playing as one unified group. And again, all year long, I think we're second in the league in assists per game, assist percentage on made field goals behind Golden State, and that's carrying over into the playoffs. And that's who we are, and that's who we need to be.
Michael, what do you think right here?
Yeah.
What do you think this team learned in the first 4 games to finally get to the point to play its best game? And also, do you think they're starting to kind of show and realize their potential?
Yeah, I think this is a 3-2 series, and I think in our 3 wins we've shown our potential. In our 2 losses, we haven't played very well. And even in Game 1, we still gave ourselves a chance late after having not played our best brand of basketball. But young group that's learning on the fly. What I like is that we're being more consistent. You know, Game 1 and 2 were 2 different teams. Games 3 and 4 were 2 different teams. But now, for the first time in this series, I've seen in Game 4 and 5 a consistent effort. Starters off the bench playing the game the right way. And tonight, I thought, defensively, 90 points, 41 from the field, 29 from 3 is remarkable. The rebounding advantage was in our favor. And, the turnovers in that first quarter were high. But overall, I thought we did a pretty good job of sharing it and taking care of it.
Mike, after a game like tonight, how do you avoid the trap of a Game 6 where you can clinch the series?
Yeah, well, I told our guys, this whole series is so many firsts for all of our players. Our first home playoff game, first road playoff game. And now this will be our first opportunity to close out a series. Most of our guys haven't been in this situation. All I told them was this will be the hardest game of your career. Closing out an opponent like San Antonio in their home gym is going to be one of the hardest things we've ever tried to do. We have to go down there and play the same way we've been playing, and we can't play with the pressure, or we can also play with thinking, well, we have Game 7 at home. We have to be all in Game 6, and I think our guys understand what's at stake and what it's going to take to try to get that win on the road.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Coach.
Mike Malone sounds like a man in love with his basketball team, and why not? They won big tonight to take a 3-2 series lead. Chance to advance on Thursday. We'll hear from Jamal Murray and some of the other stars from both sides when we come back.